He was 18, she was 13. He's a grown man and she's a child, and that's a crime, period. Child sex abuse case. It's murder now.
It did not resemble a body.
What do you do with a decaying body for 3 months? Hey there, folks. Day 4 of the preliminary hearing for singer David. And it makes you not want to hear what's coming on day 5. It was some of the worst stuff you will ever hear, and frankly, some of the worst stuff we have ever heard in all of our years of covering criminal trials. Welcome, everybody. TJ here, alongside Robach. And Robach, I don't want to just get caught up and be a victim of the moment, but this was some of the worst stuff I've ever heard in a criminal courtroom.
Yeah, and that's true perspective, because you and I have spent 3 decades covering murders. We've been in courtrooms. We've seen some pretty difficult, gruesome evidence presented. This was absolutely at the top of the most difficult things to see, to hear, to remember, just to have been described in a courtroom, to talk about a body, to talk about remains that were once a 14-year-old girl who had hopes and dreams, and just to see what happened to her body, and then to see the person who prosecutors say is responsible for all of those atrocities, who's also, he's 21, but still a young man. Some could even say a child when this happened. And the fact that he was a teenager during all of this. It's hard to get your head around that this level of violence, this level of evil, that this is something that a young man that age would be capable of.
Again, we're talking about here, as you said, ropes, what we are seeing from the courtroom, and frankly, we aren't able to see because there are no cameras in courtroom. But again, a big thanks to all the people, all the reporters who are in the room, who are putting out this information in a lot of detail for us to see, and then we can give it some context, and it's hard to find it in understanding of a case like this. We do want to give you a heads up here as we go along and tell you about what happened in a very significant day, day 4 of the preliminary hearing. You're going to hear some pretty tough stuff. We're just going to relay to you what was said in court, and it does have robes. And I mean, there are a lot of places I've read with trigger warnings having to do with kids, and it's child sex material that was found on his phone. This is what this is. No matter what his age was, Robes, and I know he was 18, she was 13. He's a grown man and she's a child, and that's a crime, period. Period. So this is not a relationship gone bad. This was a child sex abuse case. It's murder now, but Robes, this is a child sex, and some of this stuff is hard to hear.
It really is. And yes, to the point where Celeste Rivas Hernandez, the victim in this case, 14-year-old Celeste, her parents they have sat in that courtroom and listened and heard and seen some unthinkable things about their little girl. But even on Friday, on day 4, it was too much for them. They couldn't sit through all of it, and I'm surprised they were able to sit through as much as they did.
And without question, the toughest day. And we knew a lot of this was coming, Rose, because yes, the 2 witnesses on day 4 of the preliminary hearing, again, the hearing is supposed to be for the judge to decide whether or not there's enough evidence. It seems silly to say that out loud now, but this is the point of the preliminary hearing, but it's a mini trial, if you will. 2 witnesses, Robes, on day 4, a lead detective, and Dr. Grant Ho, who was the medical examiner. He started on Thursday, didn't get a lot in, so we were really looking forward, or anticipating, I should say, what he was going to say on Friday in his testimony. And Rome, he had to describe, we'll start, again, a warning here, some of this is pretty graphic. We'll start with, I guess, some of the pictures that were shown, Rhodes, how they described an image shown that was a full body autopsy photo. But the way some are describing, Rhodes, you would have had to have been told what you were looking at.
Yes, it did not resemble a body like we would be used to seeing, at least a cadaver. This absolutely was in many cases, liquefied remains. There was, he described the face as skeletal, or there was skeletization.
Skeletonization is what they call it.
Skeletonization, yes. I've never heard that term, but you can understand what it means. That's how much the body had deteriorated. But he did go through, and he was able to say that Celeste was stabbed with in 2 areas, correct? And he said either one of those wounds would have been fatal. So you didn't even need both of them. But there was one in her chest area, correct, around her ribs, and then one in her abdomen area. And either one of those, he said, independent of one another, would have been fatal.
And he went through, yes, a lot of the tick-tock of the autopsy, but he gave commentary, if you will, and some color, for lack of a better word, Robes, of just how bad things were. Again, this is a guy who has seen, you would guess, seen it all. But even this for him, and the deterioration of the body, I guess he didn't have to, but he wanted to, and you actually explained this to me earlier. He gave a description of the odor and how it was emanating from the autopsy room. And Robes, I thought, well, wow, that detail need to be in there. And you were the one that kind of said, this tells you something about David, actually.
It does. I mean, that was my takeaway, because look, this is a medical examiner. This is somebody who deals with dead bodies day in and day out. That is his actual job. He knows what a dead body smells like. He has seen some horrific murder victims. I mean, in his years as the LA medical examiner, imagine what this man has seen. So for him to sit there and testify to just how horrific the odor was coming from Celeste's remains, that you could smell it from the hallway outside of the examination room, for me, that just spoke to David's state of mind. The fact that he was living with Celeste Rivas Hernandez's cadaver, her remains, in his home for months, according to prosecutors, and then for months in his vehicle, that he was the one who was driving it, parking it, had air fresheners scattered around. He's the one whose friends came over and said, what is that smell? He lived with that smell, that a man who is trained to handle and to dissect and to examine dead bodies felt the need to explain or to express just how powerful the odor was coming from her remains. To me, that was so telling.
It stood out to him, the medical examiner. It stood out to him how awful this was. And Rose, you go back, how long he was with his body. There's no indication, I haven't seen anyone suggest that it was refrigerated in some way, right?
No.
Not stored in the cold. So they believe she died on April 23rd. They know he didn't drop that car off on the street until July 29th. Is that correct? Where was her body between April and July?
Presuming that it was in his home at some point because of the some of the police reports that suggest that his friends were complaining about an odor. So you can put 2 and 2 together and figure he must have had her body somewhere in his home, whether it was in the garage, whether it was, I mean,
Babe,
I don't know.
3 full months. What do you do with a decaying body for 3 months?
A body starts smelling after the first
days. Yes.
Like, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And unfortunately, in our careers, we have had the unfortunate experience, mine was pretty early on, of smelling what that smells like, and it's something you will never forget. It's something that smells like nothing else. I know a lot of people might have smelled a dead animal, roadkill, something like that. It's 100 times worse. So to just imagine this young man getting ready to go on his world tour, about to sell his debut album, and he has literally a rotting body in his home that he is living around and among, a constant reminder of what happened, of what prosecutors say he did, and he was okay with that. So yes, to hear, and to me, like when you hear the reports of him being stoic, there was some color from the courtroom that he did actually have some emotion on Friday when a lot of this was being described. And maybe that's even a little shocking to me, because he's been described as stone-faced, stoic.
And all of them say he stares straight ahead when they're pulling up awful videos and messages and images. They said he has stared at that screen the whole time with no emotion. The only thing I saw the report that he smiled once at his attorney during conversation. Who knows what that was about? But that was the first indication I'd seen anywhere from anybody that they saw anything from him in the courtroom. So he keeps showing up in the orange jumpsuit, the hair, and the big, thick glasses as well. But Rose, the autopsy, Grant Ho, medical examiner, look, this was just a part of the details. But we knew she had been dismembered, but he gave us the specifics about how and even how many cuts he made, if you will, he made to her arms and her legs.
And look, I do think that's also speaking to David's state of mind, that he was able to make multiple cuts to try and get her remains, I guess, to the size he needed them to be for him to remove her remains and put them in his car. Ultimately, this is what prosecutors claim, but the medical examiner said he made one cut to each arm, but he made several cuts to her legs to get them the size that he wanted them.
If you could imagine,
awful to say.
I don't even know, they put this detail in as well, is that it seemed as if, the medical examiner said, he didn't make the cuts to the legs at the same time. Meaning, and again, sorry, but they explained this in court. Imagine a body laying down, you use a saw to just cut across both legs. No. He said it seemed as if one leg was cut below the knee, the other was in the thigh. But the cuts didn't match up, so meaning he had to cut the legs separately. So there were two different cut jobs he had to do. So what you have remaining are pieces of legs, torso, pieces of arm. Robes is how they would describe it. This is some tough stuff. This is some tough stuff.
Like you just as a human being, imagining another human being who you're looking at right there in court has the ability to do that to somebody who he was, according to these text messages, which we'll get into, planning to spend the rest of his life with, someone who he was running away with, somebody who he had spent all this time and energy on. How do you do that to another human being?
Well, again, they've been arguing that he was desperate to hold on to a career that was skyrocketing. Apparently, he had made, up to $11.5 million over the past few years. He was getting money before he even blew up, Robes, you could argue. He was still up and coming and doing really, really well. So they say that's why the desperation kicked in. That's why he was behaving in this way, to the point you could chop up a 14-year-old girl. Let's do remember. They continued on. This was one of the moments, Rose, where there were, every reporter mentioned, there were audible gasps on this particular part. You have heard the severed fingers.
Yes.
She had a tattoo on one. She had, then the pinky, so a ring and a pinky finger. They showed the severed hand in court, Robes, and this thing that kept coming up. Was it called the skin thing? Skin slippage.
Skin slippage.
And this is the one they said there were audible gasps because as a body deteriorates, Robe, something happens to where literally the skin removes from the under tissue and it literally looks like it is dripping off of the body. And this was the image they showed having to do with the severed fingers, that was apparent, and they said everyone in the court
just because it's hard to imagine, it's hard to look at, it's hard to just process all of this just gruesome remains that he was living with.
You know,
caused, according to prosecutors.
This is a weird what if, but we do these stories, Robes, and we're so fascinated by them because we're trying to understand how a human being is capable of some things. And I think we are certainly to a point, we understand a lot of people are capable of murder for several reasons, different motivations. We watch enough true crime, it's usually about money or love or sex or somebody.
It's passion or money, usually one of the two.
We could understand if he was on trial for murdering this girl, I think we could accept it differently, that he was desperate to do this thing and he was desperate to not be found out and he murdered somebody. Rhodes, I am having a very difficult time understanding a human being that's capable of doing some of the things they describe. That's different from a desperate murderer with a motive, babe. There is some stuff here that they describe as just, I don't understand a human being doing this.
It's other level. It's worse than any horror movie I think we've seen pretty much. And I do think that the idea that prosecutors are saying he planned this all out, this was premeditated. He lured her to his home to do exactly what we're now hearing a medical examiner sit on that stand and tell people what it is that he planned to do and how he did it and what it looked like and what it smelled like and what the aftermath was. And this was a choice. This wasn't, yes, it might have been desperate in the fact that he wanted to keep his reputation. I find that hard to even say out loud given all that he did to preserve his so-called reputation. But the fact that he was willing to take it to that extreme is just beyond comprehension.
Okay, they also explain, in addition to the skin slippage the medical examiner was talking about, this idea, you talked about the skeletonization
Yes.
Already, and this detail as well, because we have seen her picture of her full head of big curly
hair.
Black hair, right? Ugh, this awful detail that there was only a portion of black curly hair that was still attached to the scalp. And again, Rose, there's a point, I guess, there's a need to get all these details out to paint the whole picture, but Jesus Christ.
It's just like the dehumanization of her. And it happened, according to prosecutors, by his hands, by David's. He literally took everything about her that made her human, that made her, a young girl who he once loved, and what was left is just completely unrecognizable. That was my takeaway, that it just was the ultimate act of just completely robbing someone of everything that makes them human. It was just gone, deteriorated.
She wasn't left, baby. She wasn't left.
No.
She wasn't left intact. After all that had happened to her. Man, this is one of the worst, Robes, because she'd been reported missing a couple times.
Yeah.
Robes, and we haven't even gotten to this. There's the second witness that you're going to hear about, we can speak about. She had at least one abortion at the age of 13. Robes, this girl lived a horror show before she ever died.
And it was all in the name of love. Like 100%, she wanted to spend her life with him. When we start seeing these texts between the two, she was in love with him. She was planning a life with him. Everything she did and everything that happened to her was because she loved him. And that is what is so sad. But we did get a little peek into where the defense may be headed if this thing does go to trial. And when the medical examiner was up, the defense is allowed to question him. And it was very interesting, the line of questioning the defense went with.
Wait, we've been waiting on this, right?
We've been waiting on this.
We've been talking, if you go back to the first we started covering and knew this was coming, this preliminary here was coming. They don't have options. There's no way you're going to get out of saying he dumped the body. There's no way you're going to get out of saying he chopped up the body. So your only option is to say she accidentally died in some weird fashion on her own. She accidentally died because you all got into a fight and something happened and he freaked out. Or option 3, we thought, Robes, was say she did it to herself.
Yes. The only other option would be if someone else came in and did it. But there's
no
not
indication
been
of that.
any indication. There's been zero evidence of that, and no one has even floated that idea. So yes, you're really down to accidental or she did it to herself.
And now when you suggested, I guess I was suggested they were going to say she did it to herself, and you kept saying she's got 2 puncture wounds, fool. How are they going?
Yeah,
you can't. That's not an option.
The only thing they could say is she was so despondent. He was breaking up with her. He told her that he didn't want to see her anymore. She was so upset that she actually, killed herself with a knife.
Sounds ridiculous.
It's a strange way to do it. We had even talked, if someone's going to harm themselves, typically there's certain things they do, there's certain ways they cut, there's certain places they cut. I've never heard, I'm sure it exists somewhere in the world, of someone choosing to stab themselves not once but twice. But anyway, the defense went down this line of questioning and asked if it was possible if Celeste Rivas could have actually stabbed herself, and the medical examiner had to say, yes, it's possible.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes, it's possible. But he did say there were no hesitation wounds that they could see, and that's typically, you do see hesitation wounds before somebody harms themselves with a knife or a sharp object, but it was put out there, it's possible.
Robes, in a trial, Would that have been enough for reasonable doubt?
No.
With everything
No.
else?
No, they would have to go so much further
Okay.
in setting up a scenario in which
Okay.
she actually maybe had, I'm going to do something to myself if you do that. Like they would have to show a whole, a bunch of evidence to back up this theory that she could possibly have stabbed herself, and he freaked out and dismembered her and disposed of her body.
And I guess we watch enough trials. This is where we're going to lean on our TV law degrees.
Yeah.
That defense does not work.
It really doesn't.
Because the only person who can say that she did that to herself is David. You can't enter that into evidence unless he gets his ass on the stand, which we know is never going to happen.
Absolutely not.
Right? You have to. A medical examiner can say, yes, it's possible she did it to herself. But then what's the next thing? Who says she did it to herself? He would have to say she did it to herself. He'd have to get on the stand to do that. What did she puncture herself with? Medical examiner, I don't know, could have been this or that. Where is it? Don't know. Who can tell us? David, hop on the stand and tell. Robes, how can you introduce this
theory? That
theory?
makes no sense.
How can you possibly?
Only unless they have some sort of written word from her that I haven't seen yet.
Okay.
But other than that, I cannot imagine that they would be able to do that.
No, wait. So, okay, they tested it out. They at least got him on the record saying, what is it here? It says, you cannot determine whether Miss Hernandez was holding the knife that caused the 2 wounds, correct? Medical examiner responds, correct. Defense lawyer, you can't rule that out, right? Medical examiner responds, so that is a consideration, but we would expect to find hesitation marks. Yeah, hesitation marks, they say they don't find. Obviously, that's usually comes up or can come up when someone is trying to cut their neck or even cut their wrist. They do find these hesitation marks. I don't know how that would show up if you're cutting through your shirt or you're punching. I don't know how that could possibly work, but they're saying no. Not likely, but Robes, he said it's a consideration. And if you get the medical examiner who did the autopsy on Celeste Rivas Hernandez under oath saying it's possible she did it to herself, is that going to fly with
Probably doesn't
anybody?
rise to the level of finding him not guilty.
It's too much other stuff.
There's
too much other stuff. There is entirely too much.
But it was a window into where they may be headed if this goes to trial.
Where they may be headed. It is
the only place
they can go. Now, as difficult as it was to hear the medical examiner, Robes, it got equally as disgusting for a different reason when the detective got up and started talking about what they found in David's phone. Now, images, and this is, what do they call it? Child sex, and it's child porn is what they would call it. The stuff they describe, Robes. And this is where the family this was too much for them.
Oh, I cannot imagine being able to sit through this. But yes, in fact, some of the photos, some of the videos were so sexually explicit, they wouldn't even show them in court, even with Celeste's parents gone. They just had the detective describe some of these videos, but we're talking up close photos and videos of genitalia, of sexual acts. They did have pictures and videos of them lying in bed together naked, lots of that sort of imagery, but this is an illegal act that there were videos of and photos of. It was undeniable, irrefutable evidence of a illegal sexual relationship that he was having with a 13-year-old girl.
Robes, that's a conviction right there.
Yes,
on the phone.
without a doubt.
That is nothing you can do about what they've described. The ring pictures were, I guess, a little insight into just how serious this relationship was supposed to be. But one image of David on his phone holding a ring, and then another image didn't show Celeste Rivas Hernandez, but it showed a hand very much believed to be hers with that ring on
like
it.
a promise ring, so to speak, correct? So at 13, and look, this is behavior. These were texts, these were videos and photos of between a couple you would expect to be at least 10 years older. Certainly not a 13-year-old with an 18-year-old. But then these text messages also talk about a pregnancy. and an abortion. And just to think that this poor young girl was going through all of that on her own, without her parents, without, she was reported missing at that point. And to think and to hear that she's having these conversations with him about how guilty she feels. And you can tell in these texts she's having regret that she had the abortion. Then there was fear that the abortion didn't work, that maybe she was pregnant again. But they were clearly, even his text to her, planning a life together, saying, this will be the last time. There won't be another abortion. The next one will be for real, meaning they're going to raise a family together. I mean, this is where his head was. At least this is what he's telling her.
A 13-year-old girl. He's telling a 13-year-old girl this. This makes no sense. There is a 13-year-old girl in the house behind us. What? Having a conversation anywhere close to that. Robes, this is a child. We got one in the house that's 13, Robes.
She's asking if she can walk a couple blocks down to a beach by herself for 30 minutes and then come back, and you're like, I'm not sure.
Robes.
We're talking about little baby steps of just kind of entering the world and just doing a few things on your own. She's dealing with pregnancy, abortion, running away from home, planning a life with someone, getting a ring. I mean, as if she's 23, not 13. It's just so sad. She was in middle school. She should be in 8th grade. She shouldn't be dealing with these massively adult issues that she was facing all by herself, and she was facing with someone who she trusted, someone who she thought was the man who loved her, and he was the one who now, we're hearing in this courtroom, did all of these horrific, unthinkable things to her just so that he could save his own ass. It's awful. It's terrible. It's one of the worst.
This is
I
tough.
think it is. Like, it is the worst case that I have ever seen in a courtroom.
Bro, it's getting worse. I remember when the car was first found, and in September, and then he went on and performed.
Yes.
Even after it was public that a car registered to him, body was found. And even before, I thought, wow, he must be innocent if he's going ahead and performing. But then out of my mouth next was, what an asshole. Why would you, just out of respect, why would you perform, even you're completely innocent? Robes, every step of the way, it's incomprehensible, some of the things. Look, we are all humans. We all make mistakes. We do bad things. We've hurt people we love. All kinds of stuff. Okay. There is a level of human behavior here that I just don't get and cannot make sense of.
No, I think most people would call this sociopathic behavior, because this is not, and I hate the word normal because none of us are normal. We all have varying degrees of whatever, but this is a whole other level. This is sociopathic. This is not something that, thank God, the majority of human beings are capable of behaving like. I mean, yes, it was all about him the entire time. There was no, if this is all true, there was no guilt, there was no conscience, there was nothing. Man. There was just, what can I do next for me? And how am I making sure that I'm good at the expense of everyone else?
Even after, I'm still back to the car and he performed. Even if, Robes, you go out and perform, how could you not be so freaked out that, oh my goodness, they're on to me? How could he play it that cool?
How did
I am blown away.
Think he was going to get away with it? I think that's the other thing. Like, just the fact, we kept thinking he was innocent initially, just for the mere fact that nobody would put a body that they painstakingly chopped up and put it in the car registered to them, leave it out on the street for anyone to see, tow. I can't even get my head around where he was, what he was thinking.
I don't get it.
I mean, sociopaths are typically really intelligent, and that's how oftentimes they hide among us and they get away with a lot of stuff. This dude, like, almost wanted to get caught. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
Sociopaths are smart.
Yes.
Well, they gonna kick him out of their club because he is not making them look good. This is every step of the way.
No.
And I guess he was 20. I guess a kid. I guess pretty young, pretty immature, I don't know. This is the stupidest thing. We knew he had to be innocent because nobody would do that.
Nobody
would do that.
Nobody would do what he did in the aftermath. I mean, not a person I can imagine would think, I know how not to get caught.
It was, what the hell? Rose, I'm sitting here and it sounds crass. Well, I can give him 10 better options than what he had.
He
if
had
he
a
wanted
shovel.
to get rid of a body. He had a shovel. We know he got delivered from Postmates on April the 24th.
The
Is that
day
right?
after prosecutors say he murdered her. Yes, and he had a vehicle. I mean, he had other options. The options he chose have an absolute target right on him, like no one else but you.
He had a garage. He could have put the body in the car with not anybody seeing.
Yeah, why did he park the car out? It's like he wanted to get caught.
This is bizarre.
I don't know.
Last we were talking here, Rose, about the text messages. This is the difficult one. This is in April of 2024, talking about abortion. But she says to him, realistically, I care about you. I killed my first kid for you. He responds, it has to be in the right time with least complication. She responds, I still would have been there for it. He says, yes, selfishly, because it would have also been mine. She responds, David, I'm going to have to lie to people around me, even my kid, for the rest of my life. I don't like talking about it because it gets me really upset, but I'd do it again. That is a 13-year-old kid.
Yeah, she's feeling guilty. She's feeling awful. She doesn't like lying. She doesn't like having abortions at 13. And she's saying, and yet, despite all that discomfort, I would do it again for you. I would do it to be with you. That's where she was. She would have done anything for him.
And prior to that, they shared another one in the courtroom from March of 2024, where she said to him, all we do is hang out and have sex. I want more than that, ma'am. 13 is asking for more.
Asking for more of an emotional relationship.
Ask a 13-year-old. Day 5, we'll keep an eye on it as well. The medical examiner did finish up robes on day 4. Day 5, I believe a detective. Who else is expected up? I can't remember.
I just know the detective that was giving all those text messages and relaying everything he found on David's phone. He is back on the stand on Monday, which is day 5. And I've heard some reports that this could be the final day in the preliminary hearing, but we will have to wait and see what happens on day 5. Anyone else they call up to the stand, and the defense again can question, but I don't think the defense is expected to call any witnesses. This is just the prosecution putting on its case before the judge to see if there's enough evidence to go to trial, and perhaps maybe even the defense now seeing what they're up against. We'll see if they make a different move based on what they heard over these past 5 days in court.
We should mention David's putting out new music, apparently.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was a whole weird twist. Over the weekend, in between day 4 and day 5, someone was capable of hacking into his Apple Music ID, was actually able to upload a song that sounded a lot like him, that had Celeste in the lyrics, her name, talking about the girl with the tattoo on with my name on it. And the name of the song was I Did It. And the photo art for the album was the Tesla impounded, the aerial shot, like the drone shot, I believe, of his Tesla in that impound lot. So it was, I'm shocked that someone was able to do that, but they were able, and it went viral. A lot of people downloaded this song. People were questioning whether or not he was able to do it from prison. They pretty much quickly determined there's no way he could have, but people were actually wondering if it was his voice, because it was that close to how he sounds.
Which part are you more shocked by? That somebody was able to hack in and do this, or are you more shocked that somebody took the time to produce this song in the first place?
I would say both. I mean, both actually. Like, don't we have better avenues, better ways to be creative? But somebody was able to do it, and I never heard it. It was already taken down by the time it was up, but it was up for a couple hours.
What was OJ's book? Was
If I Did It.
If I Did. And the song was I Did It.
I Did It.
Okay.
Yeah.
We know.
Exactly.
No, innocent until proven guilty. Let's not go down that path. Maybe they have an explanation for a double.
We shall see.
A double stabbing suicide. Folks, we always appreciate you. We are keeping a close eye on this one. And we'll keep it coming to you. Always appreciate you spending time with Robes, TJ. See y'all soon.